So I pretty much just went from being this fat, semi-depressed Genshin Impact player to losing over 15 pounds and becoming a straight-A student in the last 2 years or so. And basically what I'm going to do in this video is I just want to give you my entire life story pretty much, so that you can just learn exactly how I did all of this stuff and transform my life in like half the time, bro. Because the problem with most like self-improvement YouTubers nowadays is that they tell you to do these things like get on self-improvement, dopamine detox, but they don't actually tell you like what does the journey actually look like. And so I'm just going to do that in this video so that again you can make the same amount of progress as me in like half the time. But it's a quick disclaimer though, if you can't sit through a 15-minute or 20-minute video with not that many edits, then you don't have a chance of improving your life, bro. And so just sit down, close all of your tabs, and just give me your attention for the next few minutes, because I could change your life with this video, bro. So let me just give you some background, bro. So I was actually born in like a decent household, bro. Like my parents loved me. There was financial stability, everything like that. There were all these self-improvement YouTubers that talked about how they were born in poverty, they were cutting themselves, they were semi-depressed. There was nothing really special about my upbringing, bro. I was never beat as a child or anything, you know? But there's one really big thing that happened, which was when I was about 5, I got my first iPad. And pretty much, I became addicted to the internet, and it just became my new way of life. And I have this theory. I probably became an iPad kid just because I was an only child, right? So I sort of call it only child syndrome, where basically you're just sort of left alone for most of the day, right? So you're just gonna gravitate towards finding some other way to be social. And I found that YouTube, especially, was like a great way to get that same sort of social feeling, because of course my parents were there and I had school and stuff, but really I was just sort of left alone for most of the times. And it wasn't really until like grade 4 that I really spawned in, if you could call it, but that was really the time where I got into gaming. So I had a bunch of these other friends in grade 4 who played these online weird ass 2D games, but they were multiplayer and they asked me to play with them. And so I was already addicted to YouTube, but now I was getting introduced into video games as well. And at that time it was still pretty wholesome, right? You know, I'm only playing for like 30 minutes to an hour a day. I'm playing with my friends and it's really fun, honestly. It's really wholesome, but that's when COVID hit, bro. And honestly, when COVID hit, that pretty much just changed me from like the semi-normal 10-year-olds to this like completely addicted goblin, bro. I was pretty much just playing 10 hours a day because, I mean, what the hell was I supposed to do otherwise, right? I was already conditioned through like years of YouTube addiction to just sort of sit there and use my time to just stimulate myself. And so it was about this time where I sort of fell into like my semi-depressive, addicted state. I was playing video games for like 12 hours a day, honestly. Like, it was crazy, bro. I remember this one time, I literally didn't speak to my parents for like 3 days. Like, I'd say good morning and good night to them, but literally, I would wake up, log on to YouTube, and just, like, watch for, like, an hour, get onto video games, and play with my friends for a few hours, eat in my room, so I wouldn't have to go down to eat lunch, do the same thing with dinner, and literally just play games the entire day. This is probably the most depressive period of my life, bro. I was literally playing video games for, like, 10 hours a day, so, of course, the other parts of my life suffered, right? You know, I got really fat at that time. I started, like, neglecting to even brush my teeth, so I'd stank-ass breath. I didn't really play any sports at that time. I didn't really go out to hang out with people. So I literally just became like this Discord mod. As soon as I thought it couldn't get any worse, I discovered the one thing that every single teen boy discovers at that time: the hub. I never really got addicted to the hub, right? You know, I would go onto it like maybe once or twice a week. But me just knowing that I was the type of person to go onto it shattered my confidence even more, bro. And this is pretty much like the lowest part of my life at this point. And I remember this one day, I was sat on my bed, I was laying down about to go to sleep, and I just had this barrage of just negative thoughts. I thought to myself, bro, I'm such a loser, bro. I'm so fat. I'm so lazy. I'm such a dirty person for going on the hub. I was such an addict at this point that I didn't even know how to get out of this stage, bro. I had my dad literally like yell at me and force me to study sometimes. But that just sort of made the problem even worse because I never chose to do it. And so not only was I addicted to these things like video games and junk food, I had this hatred for the good habits because I was being forced to do them. And you might relate to this feeling of just when you know that you're doing the wrong things, you know that there are good habits that you should be doing, but you're just not doing them because you just don't feel capable of doing them. And there are a few lessons that you can learn from this part of my life. The first part is the life of pleasure and stimulation and just gaming is actually just as painful as the life of doing the good habits. Because think about it, it's painful to do things like studying and exercising, you know this, right? But honestly, it's even harder living that life of just playing video games and eating junk food and doing all this pleasure 24/7, because you have to understand right now, if you're going through this phase that I'm talking about, every single time you choose to do the pleasurable stuff right now, you're choosing to make your future self suffer. And this is the biggest thing that you need to learn right now, because the life of just playing video games all day, eating junk food, and doing everything pleasurable is just as painful as you doing the good habits, bro. Every single time you chose to do the pleasure now, you chose to basically tell your future self, screw you, I don't want to make your life better because I choose pleasure now. Nobody's gonna come and save you. If you have all these bad habits, if you don't like the way that you look, if you don't feel motivated to study, if you don't have anything going for you in life, you chose to be in this position, bro. And you have to realize that the only person that's gonna save you and the only person that's gonna improve your life is you. You can watch as much self-improvement videos as you want, but you have to realize that it is your responsibility to change your life. And you need to tell yourself, like, enough is enough, bro. I'm tired of living this life of just me doing the stuff that makes my future self worse. I'm gonna start making my future self's life better and start choosing to improve my life. Whether or not you achieve your goals, it's entirely your choice. And so yeah, bro, those are the two major like takeaways you can take from that part of my life. Now we're gonna talk about the next phase of my life, which happened almost after COVID. And so at this point, all the lockdowns had ended pretty much. And so I would just sort of sat there semi-depressed, just playing video games and watching YouTube at the same time. And then I came across this one YouTuber. You probably heard of him. His name's Hamza. And bro, that guy pretty much changed my life at that point. Because if you don't know about Hamza, basically he was like a self-improvement YouTuber back when there was like nobody actually making good content. And basically what happened was that after watching his videos for a while, I realized, like, wait a minute, I need to start improving myself. I need to start quitting these bad habits because they're bad for me. It was pretty much at this point in my life that I actually started taking action and I started actually improving my life. So I quit things like video games at this point. I stopped, eating junk food so much, and I started doing these good habits like working out somewhat consistently. I started actually reading and I started learning and I started improving my life as a whole. But then came pretty much the biggest test of my life, the thing that actually caused me to improve my life the most. Which is pretty much me finally giving up my gamer friend group. I'd had this friend group for like a year or two where I would be playing video games and I'd be laughing with them. But I realized at that point, and you're gonna have to realize this too, the people that you're around, the people that you hang out with the most are gonna influence you to be more like them. Even though you wanna do these good habits like exercising and losing the weight and improving your life, if you have a bunch of gamer friends that don't support you and don't align to your goals, then you're not gonna make nearly as much progress as you want to, because it's sort of like these people are holding you back towards the potential that you have. And so it was around this period that I remember I sort of entered this point of like, not really depression, honestly. I wouldn't say I was ever depressed, but it was like a really, really quiet period of my life where I was just sort of there doing these good habits, watching these YouTubers tell me how to improve my life. And there were some intense periods of like loneliness and questioning. And I remember this one day really specifically, I joined back into that friend group. So it had been like a few weeks after I'd quit gaming. And I was like, okay, I feel a little bit lonely. How about I start talking to these kids again so that I have somebody to talk to? And so I logged back onto Discord and I returned back to gaming for a second. But after like an hour, I just realized, like, wait a minute, these people are losers, bro. Like, I finally had this sort of nudge in my mind where I was like, bro, all these people do is just play video games the entire day. These people do no good habits. I do not want to be anywhere like these people. And I had this vision where I was like, okay, in a few years, these people are gonna have a worse life than they do now. They're not getting better each day. But if I actually choose to start doing the good habits, I'm gonna have a better life than them. So it would actually be a good thing for me to quit this friend group and just start distancing myself away from these people so that I could attract better people into my life. And so let me just give you a few lessons from this period of my life where, I discovered self-improvement. I started watching these YouTubers like Hamza and I started making progress, but I also had to fight through this loneliness that comes through the first few months of like improving yourself and distancing yourself from these addictions. And the big lesson I want to basically give you here is that if you want to start improving yourself and if you want to distance yourself from these addictions and just reinvent your life as a whole, you can't do it when you have the same social circle as before. You can do better than these video gamers, bro. You can do better than this. And the reason that you're attached to these people is that you're afraid that nobody's going to replace these people. You're afraid that if you cut these people off, you're not going to have any friends forever. That is not the case, bro. And honestly, bro, you might have these addictions that you're having a really hard time getting rid of. Like, for me, it was video games, bro. Like, I was able to quit junk food for a while, honestly, but it took me a while to actually finally tear myself away from this addiction to video games. But you have to understand, bro, 90% of people are never going to improve themselves. 90% of people are going to be at their like peak life right now, and they're going to slowly get worse as the years go by. But if you actually improve yourself, what you're going to find is that the opposite thing's going to happen to you. Suddenly, you're going to start improving yourself every single day, and your life is just going to get better. But that's only going to happen when you let go of these addictions that you've been struggling with for so long. And the final lesson that I want to teach you on this part of my life is that you're not going to see progress for a while. When you start doing these good habits like actually studying now, you start quitting these bad habits like video games, junk food, porn, scrolling, what you're gonna find is that it's not like how in a video game you suddenly start making like an insane amount of progress at the start. Instead, what you're gonna see is that over time, you're not gonna see that much progress for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden it just explodes and you start seeing massive progress. And so I remember I'd have these really motivated periods where like I'd be working out and studying every day for like 2 weeks, and then I'd just fall back and I'd stop doing them because I didn't see any results. But I just want to assure you, bro, if you're going through this period where you're trying to improve yourself but you're not seeing results, trust me, bro, you are making progress. You are getting closer. It's just gonna take a few more repetitions. It's gonna take a little bit more time until you start seeing results. When I started trying to lose weight and I was this really fat kid, it took me about 2 or 3 months to actually start seeing progress and to start losing the weight. But as soon as you start seeing a little bit of progress, all of a sudden it explodes and you start making massive progress every single day. But now we're at the final stage of my self-improvement journey, which has been going on for the past about, I'd say, 1.5 years. So it was at this point that I've been doing these things like working out every single day at the gym for like a few months at this point. I'd pretty much quit most of my addictions. At this point, this is when, like I said in the last lesson, this is when like the efforts that I'd been making and finally started going up, and I started actually seeing huge progress, you know? I started losing weight. I was more confident about myself. My grades were higher than ever. And ultimately, everything in my life was just getting better. And then just randomly, out of nowhere, after just like a few months of consistent progress, this new friend group that I had never really spoken to before came into my life. Like, I remember I was at school one day, and I saw this group of kids that I had honestly never seen before. You can imagine like the really video game, like nerdy kids who were just sat there in the corner of like the school playground talking about like friggin' Genshin Impact or something. They weren't like that. They were athletic. I could see them. They were actually like people I wanted to be like. I'd heard about them. And the reason I'm telling you about this is just to show you like the only way that you're gonna find a better friend group is when you improve yourself. If you don't quit these addictions to video games and stuff, you're not gonna find another friend group that's better than this. I'm just some random fucking 14-year-olds on the internet, but at the same time, I've improved myself. I became the valedictorian of my class, you know? I got the best grades in the school. I lost over 15 pounds. I basically just increased my value as a person so that I attracted people who were also more valuable. And I make this video just to show you that, bro, this stuff truly works. If you start improving yourself now and you take advantage of your teen years where you have no responsibilities, where you don't have a 9 to 5 and you can just chill. If you lock in right now while everybody else is distracted, you're gonna beat everybody so easily, bro. And I am living proof of this because that's exactly what I did. And so if you want more value from somebody who actually understands you and want to improve your life just like how I did, then go down and subscribe right now so that you get more value just like this on your YouTube recommended feed. As always, my name is Atharv. See you soon.